Notorious Noid. Hey, dude, are you worried about long-term nootropic usage? Like, I want to boost my baseline, but don't want a negative effect long-term. Do you take many breaks? Should I be worried or just chill about it? It depends what you're taking. If you're taking stimulants, then obviously be mindful of it. When I say stimulants, caffeine's okay, but otherwise stuff like modafinil, anything you can say prescribe, definitely be conscious of it and do your research. Fortunately, there's so many people like myself that have experiences, have talked about the benefits of cycling off of them, but you just have to find really what works well for you. The racetams I notice are one thing which I do cycle off of because I've just found like what works for me. For example, oxiracetam. When I ingest oxiracetam, I seem to get like this mental alertness, a little bit of a boost. But if I'm taking it consistently, just after 4 to 5 weeks, I don't get that boost anymore. So that's the time when I'll eliminate it from my stack, omit it for a bit, reintroduce it, and I'll feel great again. So it just depends nootropic to nootropic. But do I get worried? I used to get worried. Now it's just, I mean, I'm using the nootropics to help me progress in all areas of my life, my personal life, my business. Hey, if business goes good, I'll have enough money that in the event something goes wrong, hopefully that money could help just in essence make me better and restore me back to baseline. So what can I say? I don't worry. One thing I do worry about is taking too much caffeine. There are times when I'm taking about 400 milligrams, and just that in itself is a little bit concerning, given that there's not enough studies done and there's not enough conversation about the negative effects of caffeine. There are some studies showing that it can actually reduce blood flow to your brain and actually can restrict growth in your hippocampus, which can really harm your memory maybe long term. So that's something I'm concerned about. But otherwise, when it comes to modafinil or anything else I'm taking, no. And I'm taking a lot of pills. If I just think about the pills themselves, 25 to 30 a day. That's excluding multivitamins. But I don't know. You guys probably think I'm weird. People around me, my friends, they think I'm weird, but they don't think I'm weird necessarily in a bad way. Just I guess unusual. So I'm happy with what nootropics are doing for me and what they can do. That being said, I'm going to continue taking them. I'll go back to the Q&A on the YouTube videos. Taz Oak 2 says, modafinil for me really, phenylpiracetam for me works like coffee. No more, no less really. Yes, it lasts a bit longer. Dose at max 2 times per day. So very similar. Again, that's what I'm saying. Phenylpiracetam, just as I'm discussing it, it works very similar to caffeine, but you can't say it's like caffeine because caffeine, you notice the peak, you notice the troughs. It's very unusual. It's very unusual that, or just from my perspective, that to compare it to caffeine, it almost seems like from the time you take it in, you can just feel your mood slightly elevating, becoming more focused. And then 90 minutes in, you're at that peak. And somewhere between like 2.5 to 3 hours, you start notice it just coming down. What's really cool though is a lot of people are reporting very good effects from taking extended release caffeine. This is pretty new to the marketplace, but I'd recommend you do check it out. The only product I've really tried extended release besides prescriptions are melatonin. So I've tried melatonin extended release, but I don't like taking melatonin. I don't recommend you take melatonin. It's something you really just wouldn't want in your body. That is something which in essence I'd be a little bit worried about. But the one purpose when melatonin did do something, or the one purpose I'd say I could recommend it for is if you know you're not going to get enough sleep, like you know it's going to be one of those nights where you're getting 5 to 6 hours. Sure, take a little bit, but I'm talking like a really small dose, like a 2.5. Brad says the great come down of caffeine. Seriously, what do you do during the come down? I just wish I could not have work for an hour. No matter what I'm doing, I feel horrible. And honestly, like the first time I took a pre-workout, 13, 14 years ago, I've been experiencing it. I have to say I have not found a solution to the caffeine crash. The only thing which helps a little bit is during the crash, have specifically like MCT oil or have some Brazil nuts. I've noticed there's something to be said about Brazil nuts, testosterone, and selenium. Cognitively, they can just really improve your mood and help you that way. But otherwise, L-TYROSINE, that will naturally help to improve your focus. If you're unfamiliar with L-tyrosine, it's an amino acid that's found in like egg whites. even chicken breast to some extent. However, when you take it in its free form, so exclusive of any other calories, it can really be beneficial. So try that next time if you experience the great come down of caffeine. Try some just L-tyrosine dose, like 500 milligrams to 1 gram of L-tyrosine. And yeah, because what's so is in my line of work, like I sell homes, this is just typically how I dress during the day. What's so is I need to be on the phones. I need to be in presentation. So I don't want to be experiencing any sort of caffeine crash, during those really vital times. The real slot players, I'm just like you. I take so many nootropics. Hey man, cheers. Good, keep it up. And you should start making videos. There's not enough people out there making nootropic videos. I mean, this all started by somebody just telling me, Mike, you know a good amount. Why don't you throw some videos? Okay, I'm gonna keep going through some questions because the viewers seem to just want to make comments but not ask questions. Okay, Marilee commented pertaining to ashwagandha that it helps them to calm down their very high cortisol. They say ashwagandha helps to calm down my very high cortisol. I now take it 5 days every few weeks. To which I responded to them, how do you know that that your cortisol is actually decreasing? And they're in essence saying that they pretty much just suspect it. They're not really getting it tested. There are ways to test your cortisol. I think it's you can get testers out there. I mean, I just think it's a matter of time. I think it's a matter of time until you could just test your testosterone right on the spot, your thyroid. That would just be incredible. However, some people will just be too overly analytical when it comes to it. So maybe it does more harm than it will do more good. Coming to our next question. As soon as I wake 2 hours before. Okay, Phenibut. What's everyone's experience when it comes to Phenibut HCl? Because that video I made essentially saying that why I don't take Phenibut seems to get a lot of disagreement. People didn't like the fact, or the majority of people didn't like the fact that I talked about a product which I haven't taken. And I don't usually do that. I would say 90 to 95% of the products that I discussed in this channel are products which I've personally taken. Phenibut is an exception, or Phenibut. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it properly. But what's so is I even tried 1.5 grams today, and I don't think it did anything. This is just shooting this 11:36 p.m. at night. When did I take it? Maybe 7 or 8. I don't notice anything differently. Not more alert, more like fluid when it comes to conversations. But if you look up the benefits of Phenibut, I mean, Phenibut, people will report all kinds of things. So try this instead. Somebody's again recommending that. Where's the results? Oh man, that's funny. When I talk about a nootropic and people comment something like, what have you achieved from taking this nootropic? Man, I don't know how to answer that. Be more specific. What am I supposed to say? I've lost weight. I've made this much money. I really do try answering everyone's questions, but yeah. Mike, do you have a review for Racetam specifically? I do not. It's the racetams which I talk about and I've made videos on are pretty much the only ones I found effective and to do anything, which are piracetam, aniracetam, oxiracetam, pramiracetam, and this bad boy here, phenylpiracetam, but I do not put phenylpiracetam under that category because it's more so like modafinil. It's just really could cause you to be very alert, and it's not something that you would take close to bedtime. Brad says, have you tried stacking L-theanine with caffeine? Yeah, absolutely. That's something I've made videos on in the past, which I have a video coming up about. I have a video on it coming up soon. But L-theanine, surprisingly, it can make you a little bit lethargic, almost like tired. I have some very unproductive afternoons when I take too much L-theanine, which is the reason why I no longer take L-theanine in like the powder form. What so is I'll now make sure I have in the capsules, because you're taking in the powder and it's so easy just to overconsume it. And the afternoon is naturally where most people feel like that slump. If you read the book Drive, I've talked about it before, they found like the most unproductive time. They studied a lot of people and they found the most unproductive time was something like 2:42 p.m. or something very specific anyway. So what's so is avoid anything that can make you slightly fatigued in the afternoon. That's why a lot of people do benefit from having like a very light meal. A lot of really high performers who I know, they're pretty much having like a salad and chicken, like a salad and chicken breast every afternoon. But anyway, that's dietary. I want to answer your question. So yeah, L-theanine with caffeine, I really enjoyed it. I took it today prior to doing cardio. So what I'll do is typically for my weight training days, I'll exercise for about an hour, and prior to that, I'll take like a pre-workout, which has some BCAAs, all that good stuff, and caffeine. But on my cardio days, I have 2 to 3 cardio days per week. I'm always taking about 200 milligrams of caffeine, 400 milligrams of L-theanine, and that just allows me to have like a nice smooth energy. And then afterwards, I can go ahead and be productive. And I really do enjoy that effect of like the caffeine, the L-theanine, just going for a run. You feel very present. You feel very out of your head. You're kind of in your head in a trance in a very positive way, where you're looking to the future optimistically. You're planning ahead. All these ideas come to you. And I'd recommend you do definitely check that out. Bread says, definitely agree with MCT helping too. That's like the only time it really works for me. My dad loves the stuff. MCT oil, it's a saturated fat, so it's not kind of like the ideal food if you want to build a good physique, because saturated fats, they help when it comes to things like raising testosterone, but you're better off taking like polyunsaturated fats or monounsaturated fats. So yeah, I pretty much do stay away from it. Seems like there's viewers, but people aren't asking questions. So I want to help you guys out. If there's anything you want me to talk about, I'm here. Otherwise, I'll go through some of the other questions. So facile Racetam, no, I didn't notice really pretty much anything from. Some good wow, there's a lot of viewers in UK, surprisingly. Okay, Concerta. It seems like a lot of people are starting to take Concerta, which is something to help you with focus. I don't know the solution. If you've raised your, somebody says they've raised their dose from 18 milligrams up to 35 milligrams, and they're not noticing any benefit on Concerta. I was taking 35 milligrams, and I remember feeling wired. I was very stimulated, to the point where I went back to my doctor and I said, this is very strong stuff. And she was shocked. She says, Mike, that's the same dose that my daughter's on. And she's like, you know, what 2/3 of your weight. But surprisingly, man, Concerta, if you're not getting anything from it, then I would just imagine that your neurochemistry is backwards, or you're taking too much caffeine. You're taking maybe other stimulants. Try something else. For me, it was, I tried Ritalin first, very low dose, but I didn't like it because it's just so acute. And then afterwards, gradually increased what I got on the Concerta, and I really like Concerta, but it was such that when I finished school and I got off Concerta, the withdrawals were absolutely awful. So yeah, I really hope you do address that with your doctor and bring up the question if you've literally noticed nothing. Chetan says, and guys, keep asking questions. This is great. How many calories are you consuming? How old are you? And what's your carb strategy like? Wow. How many calories do you consume? It depends if I'm going through a mass phase or I'm trying to lean out. What's so is I'm trying to go through a little like a mass phase, just because I find it pretty fun rotating, like losing weight and gaining weight. Yeah, you just kind of notice better things. You understand your body a little bit better, and there's definitely benefits to calorie restriction. So currently it's what, maybe 2,200, 2,300 calories. What I do is I'm taking 245 grams of carbs, primarily complex carbohydrates, stuff like pretty much like fiber-rich foods. I will admit lately I'm not eating enough vegetables just because of the inconvenience of always going out and buying them, but that's typically it. And then what I'll do is 1 day per week, I'll have a refeed day where I eat maybe 400, 450 grams of carbohydrates. But what's so is during that day, I'm significantly decreasing like my protein intake and my fat intake in order just to really get the benefits from carbs, but at the same time not put on bad weight. And sometimes just, I mean, if that refeed day is really going to be like turned into like a half binge day, which some days it happens, but it's healthy carbs, then the previous day I will go lower on my carbs, because all the research shows that when it comes to glycogen replenishment and super compensation, which is like a carb load, you will do better if you are a little bit depleted on your carbs. So the magic happens when You go low carb and then immediately transition into a high carb day, and you will notice like the following day, you're just bigger. You're bigger everywhere. You're vascular. That's what bodybuilders do. They go very low carb up to show day, and then show day comes, or a day before show day, and they're piling on carbs like crazy. They're having sugar. They're having honey, like really just eating junk, and naturally they just get bigger. But that doesn't last long. It only lasts for a couple days. How old am I? I'm 28 years old. I hope that answers the question about the carb strategy. Like, but when I cut weight, like I probably got lean maybe about a month and a half ago. I was down to, I think maybe like 150 grams of carbs at the end with again one high carb day, and I was doing a lot of cardio. So yeah, keep on asking questions, guys. When did you bump your Wellbutrin up to 300 milligrams? I'm on 150 going into my 3rd week. Wow, 150 for 3 weeks. That's a long time. I would say that's a really long time. I'm wondering why. Do you notice the benefits? But what's so is I actually got onto 300 very quickly within maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But that was the first time I took it. The first time I took Wellbutrin was I think back 2012, 2013. So from having that experience, when I chose to get back on Wellbutrin about a year ago, I brought it up to my doctor and I literally said, 300 is what works. Don't start me on 150. And they said, Mike, that's not going to happen. We're starting you on 150. I don't care what you say. I said, okay, fine. So I took the 150 and I was just persistent with them, and I got back on and then I got to the 300 within a few days. And yeah, ever since then, I've pretty much been on 300. And I'd recommend, if you don't notice the benefits as far as mood, then talk to them. But just obviously a good idea assessing your tolerance and starting off lower, because it can do some interesting things when it comes to like hearts and just like raising your heartbeat, elevating it. Out of experimental sake, I've taken days off Wellbutrin, which you're not supposed to do. Like I took it last Saturday and I felt okay. I can't say my mood was any worse. I wasn't working that day, so it's hard to really measure. You kind of only know until you go, like, you know, maybe like a week off or so during a time when you're really under stress, when you're doing a lot of work. But I highly recommend it. And I'm also curious to know why you're taking it. Okay, Ryan, you said you're using it for depression. The 150 is giving you really good results. Keep at it. Less in this case is better, obviously, given that you take more, you're gonna naturally have more side effects, which I don't experience. But Ryan, something I think you'll like is I've shot a very in-depth Wellbutrin video, but I'm really working to make sure that the videos come out as good as possible. So still hasn't been released, but maybe it should be out in the next week, where I just go over the whole guide, because people have so many questions, and unfortunately, there's just not that much information out there when it comes to Wellbutrin. And it was the antidepressant that I found. Other antidepressants which I tried, they were not doing anything. There was the risk of weight gain. There was the risk of like hair loss. People caught my eye, and I'm happy I found it. I'm happy you found it too. But to answer your question, no, stick to 150. If you're noticing the results going well, then why go up to 300? It always just depends. When it comes to depression, it's not like binary. It's not like on or off. It's really something where there's levels. I've been through a scale. I was with the doctor once, and they had all these questions to evaluate like how depressed you were. And I'll never forget, like one of the questions was, do you want to be alive? Do you wish somebody like, you know, took away, you know, just crazy questions. So they ask you these questions because they will decide if you're a critical case in that way. So if you want a doctor's attention, make them think that you're very depressed. That's, yeah. The doc at the hospital took me off Wellbutrin. I feel tired and depressed. Betty, is that so? Then why did they take it off you? Were you in the hospital, or were you at like a psych ward, or what? Ryan says, I'm on Lexapro 10 and 150. Oh, that's really cool. Okay. So is your basically, you've dropped the Lexapro in order to put on the Wellbutrin. Yeah, that is a good idea, I'd say. Betty, I'm wondering why your doctor, so Betty says the doc at the hospital took me off Wellbutrin and you feel tired and depressed. I'm wondering why they did that. That's pretty crazy. What was the reason? Wellbutrin, I mean, in terms of side effects, it can only really affect somebody who's pregnant, or you have like a risk of seizure from what I remember. So seizure, there, see, I said it and she mentioned it. Yeah, seizure is what pretty much all the studies show people should be careful with. So yeah, that's the reason why. I don't see anything wrong with what the doctor has done. Yeah, Wellbutrin lowers seizure threshold. Hey guys, I want to make this video helpful for everyone. We got to get off Wellbutrin for a moment. Hit me with some other questions, or we can always come back to it. Somebody asked why I prefer alpha-GPC over cdp-choline. Just been my experience. Through trying different choline sources, I initially started with bitartrate, then didn't notice anything from it. A friend recommended cdp-choline. Everything in my stack was working better. And then alpha-GPC was what I noticed. Everything's better. When I say everything's better, I mean the nootropics that I was taking, they actually started working. So it's funny when you read up about oxiracetam or aniracetam and you see what its benefits are. Its benefits are, for example, help you with recall, especially in conversations, helps with anxiety. Like, nothing worked until I put the alpha-GPC in the stack. So go figure. And then when I'm off alpha-GPC, I can definitely notice I mentally just don't feel as good. If anything, a little bit of brain fog. So that's been my experience. I'm curious to know if anyone else. I mean, if cdp-choline is working better for you than alpha-GPC, it's a lot less expensive, but I really doubt that's the case. I would just say try alpha-GPC again, but try it in different doses. That's the benefit of using like a powder form, but this is phenylpiracetam. When it comes to alpha-GPC, the issue is you really have to find what dose works for you. If you underdose it, you're going to get brain fog, and if you overdose it, you're going to get brain fog. It's going to take some trial and testing, but once you're on it, really useful, especially with modafinil. It's almost like a godsend. The ideal case, like with modafinil, having it with alpha-GPC. So what I found useful is, like, I always have a really big water bottle just to make sure I get at least a gallon in. I'm typically like 1.5 to 2 gallons per day. And when it's a modafinil day, I'll just put some alpha-GPC in this and I'm sipping on it the whole day. And I'd recommend you do something like that. Chaitan, the question might be redundant. Hey, there's no such thing. Modafinil is awesome. Are there any safer recommendations from your end? I'd say adrafinil seems a little bit safer, but caffeine, just strategic consumption of caffeine and L-Theanine. Mentally, you'll benefit a lot more by dividing your caffeine doses throughout the course of the day versus having one ingestion. Like here in Canada, the government website says don't take more than 400 milligrams of caffeine. So if that's the case, like literally break it down to like 7 or 8 servings across the course of the day. You'll get a lot done. But replacements for modafinil, no, because it's not even a stimulant. It's like a wakefulness agent. But I convinced myself that it's not as effective as people think it is, because you will experience like high levels of productivity just until the end of the day comes. Like the last 4 or 5 hours of the day, if I didn't have my modafinil, I would be way more like, you know what I mean? It just severely drops your productivity. I didn't take modafinil today, and that's why I feel like I've got so much energy. I didn't, maybe, been awake for a while now, but I know for a fact if I took modafinil this morning, I would be like a little bit, not really like physically tired, but like mentally just a little bit brain foggy, a bit of headaches. So I'm going to get back to you on that. Ryan, which nootropic stack is good for MEP studying / memory? Sorry if it's been asked in a question and posted a video. That's a good question. Noopep, look into the racetams, take alpha-GPC along with them. And then along with that, make sure you have a really good diet. Be very, very strategic when it comes to carbs. Notice if carbs make you tired or they make you energetic. A lot of that comes down to like insulin sensitivity. If your insulin sensitivity is high, then you respond very well to carbohydrates. This is something you really do need to understand, and you also need to do cardio. So I'm sorry that my recommendations are outside of nootropics, but really magical things happen when you understand nutrition and your body, and particularly when you start doing cardio. Like my grades, they got significantly better. I remember I was habitually running intensely for about 10 minutes per day under like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and my grades were really good. So check out the racetams in any case though. Piracetam combined with alpha-GPC, oxiracetam and pramiracetam specifically. take some Noopep with that. You may benefit with some C-Max as well, but it can be a little bit hard to get your hands on. And as well, other than that, take some creatine, but I would stay away from stimulants. I actually don't think stimulants are that beneficial when you're studying, given that they sort of disallow you to think with too much complexity. You will find the studies show, like, when it comes to caffeine and stimulants, you can do simple tasks very, very easily. For example, like running in a straight line. But if I said to you, go through a maze, you'd be better off without the caffeine, as naturally it's going to stimulate you. It's going to therefore lead you to have less insights and just eliminate that other deeper dimension of thinking, if you know what I mean. Anon says, bro, how did you get so lean with hypothyroidism? The key was that I grew up chubby. I grew up overweight. And because of that, when I was 14 or 15 years old, I literally studied nutrition like as a hobby, just reading about it, going through the struggle. I was playing soccer and I still couldn't like have a nice stomach, which is painful, man. It was really depressing. But ultimately, you just read about nutrition. I was skinny fat. Eventually, when you're skinny fat, you just need to weight train long enough that your physique changes. So you get your thyroid monitored. I'm a believer that T3 is very important. So when you go for your thyroid test, regardless of whether or not your T4 or your TSH is on point, get your T3 right. And the way you're going to do that is with Cytomel. So up the Cytomel, of course, not to levels that would take you to hyperthyroidism, because then you really just wouldn't be able to sleep. But that'll definitely help you with the fat loss. It'll as well help you with muscle, with building muscle. There's studies showing that low thyroid can actually hurt muscle protein synthesis, believe it or not. You perform full body workouts or some other splits. If time permits, do talk about your testosterone experience. I can definitely do that. Yeah, I don't know why the workout questions are coming so much. I don't see that myself in that great shape, but yeah, I did hire a fitness coach, but not that they really help that much, just that that they're accountable. I find when I'm paying somebody, I'm more likely to follow and what they're saying and take my diet more seriously. But yeah, it's typically like a bodybuilding routine, you could say. So 20 sets across maybe 6 or 7 different exercises, like, you know, getting legs in there. Training your legs is very powerful for fat loss, particularly squats, deadlifts. You implement that a couple times per week, you'll see the fat just fly off. But more so, again, go read up on insulin sensitivity. I'm also a believer that caffeine really helps you with fat loss. That's been my experience. When I started taking more caffeine, magical things happening. And if you couple that with yohimbine, which is something which can help you with your stubborn fat and just providing blood flow to like stubborn areas, particularly with men like lower back, yeah, you'll be able to burn fat easier. And I hope that's helpful anyway. Have you tried Armour Thyroid? I have. It hasn't worked. Guys, everyone, I have to run. I really hope that was helpful. I really do appreciate you guys, all your comments, everybody with the positive feedback. Man, I was not expecting this. I'm not a doctor. I don't know that much, but people seem to like my content or like the way I present it in some sort of way. And I really hope this is helpful. And hey, honestly, you guys are so helpful to me too. There's comments out there to which I comment back and I ask you guys questions, like that Phenibut example, somebody experiencing good things and them telling me to be more, you know, like a little bit more mindful of my dose. So guys, let's keep the channel growing. Keep on asking me questions. It gives me some inspiration and some ideas for content. Don't forget to share it. Give it a thumbs up or give me a thumbs down. If you give me a thumbs down, I'd love to know why. I love the critiques and I love the comments, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next time.